Welcome, everybody, to the NARPM Radio podcast. I'm your host, Pete Neubig. Thank you so much for being here. So, I say this every week, but even this week, we have another great show. Andrew Yates has 20 years of residential real estate experience, developed, flipped, managed over 70 single family homes, building a strong rental portfolio. So, we'll talk to him a little bit about, the importance of actually owning property. In 2016, he founded Yates Management and he expanded it into a multifamily development with projects like the townhomes of Liberty Ridge, which was a 92 unit luxury apartment complex that he built and completed in 2020, right before the pandemic. We'll talk to him a little bit about that. And his portfolio now totals 142 multifamily units with over 30 million in assets under management. Andrew, thank you so much for being here, man. Big time player. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you, Pete.
All right, so talk to me a little bit. You did 20 years of residential experience, and did you go from realtor to like starting to develop? Like, talk to me about your path into actually developing, because I find that super fascinating.
Yeah, so I actually started, I was maybe 15 years old, and this is not uncommon for people about my age that got into real estate. I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad and became interested in real estate. So at the time, I was still in high school, so couldn't really do anything other than educate myself, read books, and then once I got my license, drive around and look at properties. So I spent my junior and senior year looking for properties to buy, underwriting deals, and then as soon as a month before I graduated high school, had purchased my first property and kind of hit the ground running. So I knew I wanted
Hold on,
to.
hold on, hold on. I got to pause you there. You're in high school. Obviously, you're not making big money while you're working in high school. You got to tell me about your first deal. How'd you make that happen?
Yeah, so I wouldn't quit bugging my dad about looking at properties with me. So
Poor
I
bastard.
had actually I also would I was 17, 18 when I was looking at some properties, but I probably looked like I was 14. I was calling realtors and they didn't ask questions. I would go through properties with them, not prepared to buy. I just wanted to educate myself. So by the time I was a senior, I had saved up enough money for the down payment and a little bit of reserves there. I did need my father to co-sign on the first loan, but
Sure. What are you, like 17, 18, 18?
I had just turned 18. It was before I graduated high school. So I was in sports, but in between, I closed on my first duplex, and then evenings after practice or super early in the morning, I would get some work done and started working on basically the month before I graduated high school. So a lot of my friends were making fun of me because they thought I was crazy. But yeah, I got started then and then basically rented. One side was vacant. I rehabbed it that summer and then rented it out.
When
And
you
then,
said you rehabbed it, you did the work yourself? You and your
yeah,
brother,
so
or did you
fortunately,
actually have to hire
my
some
dad,
folks?
my dad owned a plumbing and heating company. So when I was younger, I grew up kind of in the trades, I'll say. And a friend of mine that was several years older than me had started doing this. So I free labor worked on his properties as well. So I knew enough to be dangerous. So I rehabbed the one side, rented it out. The other tenant had moved out, re-rented it at a high rate, and then ended up refinancing it. So that kind of kicked things off, and I was actually able to. This is 2005, so I got a good deal on it, but prices were inflated, so I was able to refinance it and then start on my next deal. And then I began flipping at that point.
Yes, I remember back those days. I used to refinance stuff for higher value, take cash out. That was good times back then.
Those were the good old days when you could do that and not over leverage. So
Now
I
I think they call it
basically,
mortgage fraud.
well, I would get a good enough deal. That was a lot of times that wasn't a foreclosure, but the next, I don't know, five or six were foreclosures. So I would buy them substantially under market value. I would rehab it if necessary, and then flip them. So that was just a good time, an easy time to get in it when you could buy properties that cheap.
How'd you get into the foreclosures? Did you have a in with somebody at the bank, or did you just find them on the MLS? What was the way you found the foreclosures?
So I would just at the time I would contact realtors or brokers that would have the listings. And then once I started buying a few, got a little bit of credibility to where they'd make me aware of deals that are coming, and then it was just honestly 2005 6 a flood of properties, and there were just not enough
More
buyers for
property
it.
than you can buy, right?
Yeah, so there was very little competition for it, and it was just quite frankly pretty easy at that point.
Were you buying stuff that needed work? Did you have like a buy box that you were like working out of?
Um, I didn't have a specific buy box, but just in the particular market that I am, there were a lot of single family homes that were probably built in the, I don't know, 70s and 80s so they needed work, but there were so many comps that it was very easy to project what the resale value would be. And the good thing about starting out doing a lot of the labor yourself, if you maybe aren't conservative enough on some of your expenses, you can make up for it by doing your own work. So the first handful of properties, although I was careful, you learn as you go. So I was able to make sure I did well because I did a lot of my own labor. However, I transitioned away from that to where I stopped doing the physical work and was hired people to work for me.
Yeah, kind of took one hat off and kind of moved up in the business. Remind everybody what market are you in?
I'm in Findlay, Ohio, so it's a little bit west of Columbus, south of Toledo.
Findlay, Ohio, home of Marathon Oil, yeah?
That's right. That's
And Ben
right.
Roethlisberger.
That is correct. Yes.
Is it weird that I know stuff like that?
I remember when I was a little kid going and watching him play at the high school.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, my Felicia, my wife, used to work for Marathon Oil, so we're familiar with
Small world.
Findlay. Okay, so you're 18 years old. Did you get your license by then at this point? Or did you decide not to? Because I know a lot of investors don't want their license because they just want to, for whatever reason, one reason or another, they just decide, hey, I don't need my license to go buy as a real estate investor.
Yeah, it was a good question. So I actually, again, at 18, I went to take courses to do that. Took all the classes the day of the test. I had full intention of taking the test and getting my license. And I met someone there that was an investor, and I, I I was talking to him, and he discouraged me from taking it just simply because I just wanted to invest. And my thought was I would save on commission or I could make some money there. But the main focus was I wanted to own the assets and actually invest. So I didn't want to discourage a lot of brokers and or realtors from me bringing me the best deals. So just my decision that day was, hey, it makes more sense for me to not worry about that. And then if agents are going to get more commission by bringing me a deal, I'll get more deals brought my way. So I just decided not to take the test and just focus on investing and just establish a very good rapport and working relationship with a lot of agents that got most of the foreclosures. So deal flow was good and was able to get a lot of deals that way.
Now talk about, all right, so you bought the first one, you refinanced it, you were able to get some money out. You're still a young man. You're in your early 20s at this time. How'd you buy the next properties?
Yeah.
Did you
So
have to
when
have your dad co-sign again, or were you able to start now getting loans in your name, or did you get investors? Like talk about the structure.
yeah, so the first one I got a moderate deal on the first one, but I ended up rehabbing it, refinancing it. And at the time, again, it was a little easier to pull a little money out. So I refinanced it and pulled just a little bit of money out, but the money I had also put down, I was able to pull out enough to where I could kind of do the next deal, which was a very cheap house that I flipped. Bought it for 30 some thousand. So that one, I did get a loan on, but my dad co-signed for the next one and I flipped it. I did very well on that one. And that was enough money on my own to start doing it on my own. So I flipped two more additionally. And then I think that by the time I think I did three that year after the other.
Mhm.
By the time I was about 19, I actually had a decent amount of cash to just start buying more foreclosures that were rentals. So that was when it started to be 2006, 2007, where the market was turning. I was a little hesitant to flip more houses. So I just transitioned that to buying foreclosed duplexes and triplexes and bought them, rehab them if necessary, rented them, and then refinanced them. And I was able to continue to do that without over leveraging because the deals were good.
So the first property you buy, it needs work. You buy it, you put the work in, you increase the value, so you're able to pull a bunch of money out, plus. That gets you your second deal. And you again, what you do is you buy that, you rehab it, and then you flip it basically. You,
Correct. And then I did that three times. And
and
by
now you have cash.
after the third one, I actually had enough money to where I could pay cash for a property, and then I just kept doing that over and over. But what I would do is I'd pay cash for, say, a duplex or triplex, rehab it, rent it, refinance it. The BRRRR method, which I didn't know until 15 years later existed.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just naturally did that. It just made sense, and um, I was able to then finance them at, let's say, 75% loan to value, so not over leveraged. and I was usually able to pull out slightly more cash than I even put in the deal, if I would go that route with financing it. So I was able to just perpetually grow a portfolio, so increase net worth, increase cash flow, and not over leverage.
And now on these duplexes, triplexes that you bought back in 2008 timeframe, you still own most of them, some of them, none of
So
them?
I've sold off pretty much all of the small, like duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, just because it's easier to manage an apartment complex. So a couple of years ago, I sold off a portfolio of properties, and then I sold off the remainder not too long, a couple of years ago. So not that they weren't great properties, I feel like it served its purpose. It was easier to just leverage those. I sold them off in a portfolio and 1031 them into a larger deal.
Kind of like the monopoly method, right? Get four houses,
Right.
you trade them in for a hotel. Got a
Yep.
bunch of duplexes, you trade them in, and now, and so now today you have 142 multifamily units. How many buildings is that right now?
Four buildings. So I have a couple smaller ones, a 10 unit, 16 unit, 24 unit, and then that 92 one that I developed.
All in the same, all in the Finley area?
Correct. On the Finley area, I do anticipate going into other markets. I used to own property in Florida as well, but I anticipate going outside of Finley here soon. I haven't thus far.
What do you think the challenge, like, are you seeing different challenges from your 10 unit per se versus like your bigger property when
I
it comes to managing residents?
Yeah, so part of the reason I transitioned away from duplexes and triplexes is just complexity, like having properties sprinkled all over town with different ages of roofs, different building materials, different mechanicals. It's just more complex unnecessarily. So those smaller, the 10 unit, 16 unit, 24 unit, I'll probably ultimately sell off those and leverage it into larger deals. I would rather buy 100 plus unit apartment complexes. So just it's easier to manage larger deals. The only reason I have the others is because they're all in the same city. So that makes it at least convenient. I wouldn't be interested in buying a 20 unit deal in a city that's an hour away. It would have to be uh, enough units slash revenue that I could justify a local staff.
Yeah, putting somebody on staff. Yeah. I always found whether I was third party managing or I owned, you know, anything from like 4 units to like that 50 unit, that it's just a different type of clientele.
Yeah.
The residents are typically, it's the buildings are typically older. I don't know where it is in your area, but in Houston, typically it's older. There's no amenities. The residents don't really know how to pay rent online. They're not very tech savvy. And they seem to have lots of challenges that with their neighbors and outside that they try to like they call you instead of like the police or whatever, you know? So I found it very difficult and I found it like a lot of evictions and you always have unpaid rent. Were you seeing that or are you seeing that in your smaller units as well?
So what I would say, yes and no is the short answer. Yes, in the fact that I do agree with what you're saying, and I did see that to a degree. However, a lot of my niche, I would say, is I'm more on the high end. So if I bought a property, I'm going to fix it up to justify a better quality tenant. That being the case, that did help with some of that. But yes, I certainly did still see that the lower units, and a lot of times that did come with the age of the property. So I think just with some of the zoning and age of when a lot of these were built, that does line up with what you're seeing. Um, yeah, that made it a little more challenging. So having sold some of those off and leveraging into larger units where you do have amenities, newer property, you tend to get people that rent by choice, and therefore they know how things work, and it's just a little more convenient and easy to manage.
Now, Findley's kind of a tertiary market, right? It's not like a big city, small city. Do you find it hard to get uh, properties rented in a smaller market? And also, do you have trouble finding trades in a smaller market?
Good questions. Yeah, so I would say it would depend on the tertiary market. The one that I'm in, it particularly is not difficult to rent just because the development has not maintained compared to the supply, or excuse me, the supply hasn't kept up with the demand basically. So since 2005, there was a development in 2005, and then there was like a 10, 12 year gap where really nothing was developed. in part because of the recession, I'm sure. But that being the case, there was just a high demand, and that's why I chose to develop. I had done a market study, and it just I couldn't believe that there were other people weren't building. I built an apartment complex, and then there was a handful of others that have built. So there has been increased supply, but there's just strong demand for rentals in this particular city. So that hasn't been an issue. As far as contractors, yes, that's been a challenge. So trying to find good qualified contractors that are able to get to your your issue on time, that's been a challenge. So we do a lot in-house, but we do sub a few things out that can be difficult to manage sometimes.
Before I ask you about the building of the apartment complex, when you had your duplexes and triplexes, why did you not use a third party management company and self-manage instead?
Yeah, well, that's a very simple answer to that is because being in a smaller market, there were zero good, I would say, good management companies. There were a couple like individuals that kind of did it on the side or that kind of thing, but there were no what I would say professional management companies. So
Yeah.
that being the case, it was born out of necessity. If I was in a bigger city and there were, 4 or 8 or 10 options, I probably would have gone that route. But I think having started out doing it, I've learned a lot. And as I continue to grow, I would rather be able to control things and scale it with the management in-house, especially as you go into different markets. The one challenge that I know that other investors have, they grow in different cities and different states. And although some of the management companies do well, they have substantial challenges with some, and it can impact them financially. So I guess I would rather grow a little bit more slowly and ensure that the performance of the asset does well. So that's just the route I've chosen.
Yeah. Also, if you're an investor and you're going into different markets, you might have to have 3 or 4 different management companies as
Yeah.
well. All right. So, what was the trigger that you said, aha, I should build an apartment complex, even though I've never done it before? And tell me
Oh,
about that mindset. Like, you just have this mindset of like, I'm just going to go do it, like, which is pretty interesting as well.
yeah. So actually, to take a step back, so I didn't even remember doing this, but my senior year, again, I had started investing in real estate, but apparently we did what was called a senior class survey, and it asked what one of our goals were. And in one of my moves a couple years ago, I ran across this in a box, and I had written down apparently when I was like 17 or 18 that my goal was to develop an apartment complex by age 40. I had no idea that I even thought of that back then, but apparently that was a goal of mine when I was
Holy
in high
cow.
school.
Oh,
So I don't remember it going back that far. So I don't know. I just enjoy creating things, and it's although it's challenging, I really do enjoy it. Um, so part of it was there were just not many deals to be had, and there was tremendous demand. And I was buying. This is part of it too. I was buying some houses to flip that were more high end, and I had people like asking if I would rent it for 2,500, and it just blew my mind in the market that we're in. And I had so many people asking for 2,000, 2,500. If you have something nice, man, I would rent. And just over and over hearing that is what initiated me to do a market study. Once I did the market study, I felt pretty confident that the demand was there. I also in college visited a lot of friends in different cities and saw basically, so I developed townhomes. I saw some different unit types that didn't exist in the small town here. I thought it would go well and seemed to be a demand for it. So I guess I pulled the trigger. I had also developed some houses too. So I had flipped a lot of houses, became very familiar with construction, grew up in and around the trades, and then developed, I don't know, 5 or 7 houses. So I became more accustomed to construction in general, and then just decided to build a
all right. So
apartment complex.
take me just high level through the process. So first thing is, okay, you do the market research. You say, yep, I think this is good. You find a plot of land. You go and you put an offer on a plot of land. Before that though, do you like make sure like, hey, can I get sewer hookups? Where does utilities come in? Is it
Yeah.
before the land? Is it after?
So first, um, I assess different parcels that might make sense. So I just pros and cons, see which ones made more sense, and then I underwrote the deal as if it were stabilized. So I kind of backed into how many units I would need, so on and so forth. And then being in and around construction, I had an idea of costs in general. I didn't necessarily want to develop it in-house. However, I had met with several different construction companies, And if I went that route, it was going to cost me several $1 million more, which is their fee, and that's fine. I just was at the point where I wanted to maintain more ownership, so that to me at the time, I was able to maintain ownership by doing it in-house and not paying that. So I, in essence, paid that to myself. So that's why I went that route. So I just did a lot of research on construction, what the overall cost would be, what the valuation would be, and then started looking for land. And then I actually took that portfolio of properties that I had 1031 it into the land, and then began the process. I did it. I broke it into 3 separate phases, though. So I would develop the first phase and lease it, and then refinance it, and then do the second, third phase. That was a lot slower, but it allowed me to maintain ownership.
Got it. Wow. And then did you just have, so is it a bunch of townhomes or is it single family homes or what is the makeup?
Yeah, it's all townhomes. There's a combination of 2 and 3 bedrooms. We also have a clubhouse with a fitness center, game room, indoor outdoor lounge, patio, dog park. It's more of a Class A property. The only thing it doesn't have is a pool. Just didn't feel that it was overly necessary in the Northwest Ohio.
So did you create the plans for it or did you have some professionals say, okay, here's how we, an architect build the plans or some kind of plan drawing?
So one thing I will mention that I did as far as the due diligence as well, I drove and visited about 5 apartment complexes that aren't direct competition to me because I just felt like people would answer my questions. So I actually met with some owners, some property managers of different apartment complexes to see what worked well, what didn't. So I did that, but in looking at the different unit types, I did meet with an architect slash engineer in the city that I live in and just work with them to kind of build out what I had in my mind. I also at the time had a condo in Florida, and I kind of copied some of the layout because I just personally liked it, thought it would go well. So I kind of incorporated all that, literally Googled floor plans and started just playing with it to find what I wanted and worked with the architect to design it.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot now. As an investor that has owned a bunch of rentals and you kept some for many years, this is a property management podcast. So, what are maybe one or two things that you would look for should you ever look into hiring a property manager? What is like the most important things for you as an investor?
So this is something that um, probably only an investor would say because it's from their perspective. So the one thing that I would look for if I were to hire a third-party management company, I would want to make sure our incentives are aligned. So I would want to not just pay a flat fee. I would want to even give the property management more upside if we hit certain financial metrics to ensure that they're viewing the asset the way an owner would, not just to, of course, we want to keep it occupied. Of course, we want to keep delinquency low and whatnot. But I would want to maximize net operating income. So a strategy to work with them to find the most efficient way to do that and giving the property management company honestly upside so that if they hit it, they get extra money. If they don't, they're at least incentivized to do so. So that would be something if I were to hire a third-party management company that I would have to work out. That might be unorthodox, or not a lot of property management companies may do that, but that would be something that I would want just because as I've talked with other property management companies, they don't necessarily structure it like that. And as an investor, it just ensures success or a higher likelihood of it.
I like that. So make sure everything's in alignment.
Yeah. And it's working together because it might be like, hey, this is how you normally do it. But hey, look, this is what's important to me. And how can we work it out to where we're both better off if we hit this? We're not working against each other. Or as an investor, viewing the property management company like they're nickeling and diming you with just different fees and whatnot, versus you create enough value, I'll share it with you.
Interesting. So almost like a rev share program.
Something along those lines. And I do know from an investor standpoint, the larger ones that use third-party management companies in larger cities, a lot of them they line it up like that, and those are probably, I would say, more the long-term relationships with the third-party management company because it's more of a strategic partnership than it is just a transactional one-year contract. So if I were to do it, that's how I would do it.
Awesome. All right, you're off the hot seat, man. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for being here today, buddy. I really appreciate it. I love your journey. I love the fact that you started in high school and your poor dad. I bet your dad wasn't in real estate. Is that fair
Yeah,
statement?
he was in plumbing and heating, but I did rope him in to help me on a few properties.
That's amazing.
And he was great. I had hired his company to do some stuff, and he was always obviously providing that at cost. So just it was a lot of fun, but yeah, I can't say I didn't have help.
Hey, you gotta, hey, look, I always talk about leverage. You got to use leverage, right?
Yeah,
I mean, VPM is about remote team members. You leverage remote team members. You leverage your contacts. You leverage your knowledge. You leverage everything to be successful. So
absolutely.
you did a great job of it. All right, man. If anybody was inspired and wanted to pick your brain on anything, what's the best way to reach you?
If you want to just go on LinkedIn, you can find me there. Andrew Yates should be able to find me there. And if you want to send me a message, happy to communicate.
Awesome. And if you're listening to this and you're not a NARPM member, you can join by going to narpm.org or give them a call at 800-782-3452. And if you are looking to leverage remote team members, give us a shot, vpmsolutions.com, or you can email me directly at pete@vpmsolutions.com. Andrew, thanks so much for being here, buddy.
All right. Thank you.